Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Merra, and I'll say a little more later. I don't know how many people are new today, but welcome to everyone. And we're going to begin, and you can read along or sing along from your heart on page 30, the Divine Abidings. And let's start with that, and then we'll have our sit with a little guidance and some time to practice together this morning. So take a few moments to connect with your intention and coming and taking your seat, and let's begin. Now let us make the four boundless qualities shine forth. I will abide, pervading 1/4, with a mind imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, to all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading 1/4, with a mind imbued with compassion. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with compassion, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, with waiting the 1/4, the mind imbued with gladness. Likewise the second, likewise the first, likewise the fourth. Above and below, around and everywhere, and to all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with compassion, abundance, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. I will abide, pervading the 1/4, with a mind imbued with equanimity. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above and below, around and everywhere, to my all as to myself, I will abide, pervading the all-encompassing world, with a mind imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. And now, as you may continue to feel the after sensations from the chanting, or just noticing whatever's present for you now. As you take your seat, your posture, lower body grounded, upper body extended along the natural curves of the spine, the head balanced, chin slightly tucked, shoulders relaxed. Connecting again with your intention and being here this morning. And let's take a few moments, if you wish, to bring awareness to the body, to gently let the awareness sweep through the body from the head down to the toes. Being present and holding each part of your body with a kind attention, as if you're saying good morning to each region of your body, and invite the possibility of softening or resting or just holding with that kind attention whatever may be present, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, as it is. Not judging the body, but just being present in the body with awareness and breath, if that feels comfortable for you. So at your own pace, head and face, around the eyes and jaw, neck and throat, shoulders, and so forth. Breath and awareness soaking into and flowing through the body. And if and when your attention wanders, as it does, just simply bring awareness back to the body and continue. And then whenever you feel complete, choose an anchor, if you wish, to begin. The breath, touch sensation, neutral of the body, your seat, or another place, perhaps hearing, as a support for your attention as you let go of the cares of the day, of the world, and arrive more fully in the here and the now. If you've chosen the breath as an anchor, or you can use another object of attention, just see if you can let the breath breathe itself. Breathe you. Let the awareness float on the breath sensations. What happens when we let go of trying to control our experience and just simply allow it to be as it is? And then, as you wish, you can expand your attention to rest in choiceless or open awareness, including other experiences, or you can narrow it and stay with a particular anchor, like the breath or the body. So now practice as you wish, and there'll be a little more guidance in a while. Just notice where the awareness is now. Refresh your attention if it's wandered. Oh, now, if you wish, for the last part of our sit this morning, just notice how your heart is feeling this morning. However soft or brittle, open or closed, heavy or light. Just notice how it is. And if you wish, bring a kind attention or even a gentle hand to the heart area. And just as we started with the divine abidings, the noble abode, you can offer yourself some self-compassion, some kindness. See what your heart needs this morning and let it fill you like the warmth of the sun, cool breeze, the rain soaking into the earth, nourishing the heart. And then just resting in awareness, non-doing, just being. The Buddha is breathing. The Buddha is walking. I enjoy the breathing. I enjoy the walking. There is only the breathing. There is only the walking. There is no breather, and there is no walker. Thich Nhat Hanh. We'll take a short transition. We'll start in a few moments. Feel free to stretch out.
What was having trouble hearing you?
They are.
Yes,
Oh,
at least
okay.
locally here. I think you're fine on the Zoom.
Oh, okay.
So whatever mic that is,
All right. Sorry.
that's all right. Which mic is it that is local? You can try this. One of those, say tip.
You hear me now? No.
Let's try the other.
All right. All right. Wow. Turn it on. Hello? Is that better?
Yep.
Oh, something wasn't right. Okay. Let's see, maybe I can put it higher. Maybe just as well you didn't hear me, you could just guide yourselves. The inner teacher. So welcome again, everyone. And maybe just look around and say good morning for a second. Yeah. Right. Hello. So I have not been here in this practice home where I've been a member of the community for many years. Long ago, when it was at Mark and Wynn's house, and then eventually here in this beautiful community. And at some point, just even a few moments ago, I just felt the power that this is a Dharma field. I just felt how much practice and intention is here, and I just rested in it. So I'm grateful for all of you and your practice, and for everyone who's part of making all that happen, the community and Mark and Wynn and Shelley and Stacy and everyone and Robin and all of them. So my name is Merra Young, and you probably maybe you read a bio, or you've heard or not heard of me, some old and new friends. And I'm just another practitioner, and I'd like to share some things from my recent retreat and practice. And I've been blessed by being on the Dharma path and for many years, and on Vipassana and Vajrayana tradition. And I've been trained in community Dharma leading, and I teach MBSR and all those things. And I'm one of those integrative psychotherapists, and I do grief work and la da 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 da. So anyway, I hope that some of that will be supportive to your practice. That's my intention. So I also love poetry and am a poet myself. And I'd like to share a poem called One Heart by Lee Young Lee. And he's an Asian American poet born in Jakarta and also from a Chinese background. One heart. Look at the birds. Even flying is born out of nothing. Even flying is born out of nothing. The first sky is inside you. Inside you. Open. Either at the end of the day, at either end of the day, open, at either end of the day. The work of wings was always freedom, fastening one heart to every falling thing. The work of wings was always freedom, fastening one heart to every falling thing. So today's sharing or talk is called In the Fluidity. In the Fluidity, Stories and Lessons from Retreat, Impermanence and No Self, Anicca and Anatta. So what is fluidity? I'll give you the dictionary definition. The ability of a substance to flow easily, smooth, elegance, or grace. The state of being unsettled or unstable, changeability. Things can change rapidly, can they not? This is how to contemplate our conditioned existence in this fleeting world, says the Buddha in the Diamond Sutra. Like a tiny drop of dew or a bubble floating in a stream, like a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, or the flickering lamp, an illusion, a phantom, or a dream. So is all conditioned existence to be seen. So recently, I had set the intention to go on retreat this year, and I was able to go into a longer retreat setting in a little one-room kuti or place in an island in the sun. And I planned it for to coincide with my winter birthday, and it was a big one, a really big decade change. So it was one of those. And I had traditionally, I'd done other retreats, throughout the pandemic, some at home, some online. I went to some different retreat places, but I hadn't done a full month or more since the pandemic, and I was long overdue. And I tend to like to do self-retreats and kind of just find and follow a rhythm. And so I saved up my pennies, and even the place that I ended up going was not one I wanted to go. Actually, one of my dear Dharma sisters and teachers kept saying, I kept looking for the place. And I've been to some of the different retreat centers that some of you might be familiar with. And I really wanted to go somewhere warm and give myself the winter relief, right? I hope some of you got that. And was really grateful for my privilege. And the causes and conditions came together to support that intention. And nothing, I wasn't finding anything. I spent hours and hours. My partner's here today, can attest to that. I was like, oh, online looking and different things. And then they said, why don't you go here? There's a place up in the rainforest in this Caribbean environment. And they have three little cabins, and I've been there, and you can go there. So sight unseen, and I communicated with the woman. It was a couple that ran it. I had no idea even the full name of it, and got there. I had no idea what to expect. Has anyone had that experience? And I did bring mosquito repellent. I heard about that. And I call this retreat without walls. I literally had very few walls. It was just one room, and they had these magnetic screens, and some of them were even a little torn. And all the shutters were open, and it had a little deck on it, and it was up high, and it was overlooking a place called Rainbow Valley. Talk about impermanence. And I could, all I wanted to do, and I did this a lot, is sit on that deck for hours and hours. And you could just watch the sky, things blowing in, things blowing out. And everything came in there. I didn't know that that time that it was election season on the island. It was also the time of these famous 3,000-mile boat races. And then as the boats started coming in throughout the month or 6 weeks I was there, boat horns would welcome them even at midnight. And the election people would start at 7 a.m. or 6:30 sometimes. So I'd be like, had the morning coffee, sit down, all the propaganda shouting out, blasting over the valley. I'm like, okay. And then the midnight rooster would come. And so I had this idea of this, I'm going to be up in this place, solitary, by myself. There's going to be a couple. If I have an emergency, I'll go into town, I'll get all my groceries, everything will be fine. I'll just be my hermit self. Well, that did not happen. And I have some stories from this, because what happened is that it was a continual challenge to let go of what my idea of what practice should look like, what retreat should look like. It just kept pulling the rug out from under. And Robin, who you might know, is here this morning. When I came in, I have not been here in Common Ground or sharing a Dharma talk for a few years. I think I did one online, and I've taught online in other places, but I'm rusty. And she said, oh, well, we don't do Q&A on Sunday anymore, and this is how it is. And then I found myself going, well, and then I realized, oh, now I'm in the fluidity. It's just not on retreat. This is how life is. You just don't know what to expect. And then thank goodness Mary came and said, well, do you want to chant? I'm like, chant? When do we chant? Remind me. So it's just like meeting the moment over and over again. And the Buddha said when I first heard this from one of my Dharma teachers, Kamala Masters, some of you know, she talked about the sure heart's release. And that the Buddha, I don't know if you've heard that, I didn't print out the whole phrase, but what is it really about? What is this practice of awareness and awakening? Is it trying to get it right? Practice a certain way, sit your butt down for hours and hours, and then you're going to have this epiphany. It's really not high states of concentration. It's about the sure heart's release, this radical letting go, no self, no problem, right? There's a little joke I came across in my research. And I was so happy to find a joke, because humor is needed on this path. In fact, I wrote a reggae poem about the midnight rooster that I'm not going to bore you with. And part of it is that I checked in with the couple and they were amazing. And I'll tell you a little more about this place. But it's a floating sangha there, and they have people from all over the world sail in, fly in, appear, and work and help. And I met so many beings, and they actually had a whole sangha there, Bodhicharya Sangha, Caribbean. And I didn't even know that they had a Dharma hall. But here's the joke. Ready? I guess this is on the refrigerators of many yogis. It says, in a cartoon that was on many refrigerators in the 90s, Ziggy walks up the mountain and addresses the sky. Said, what is the secret of happiness? A voice from the cloud answers, fasting, celibacy, poverty. After a pause, Ziggy asks, is there someone else up there I can talk to? You know, this researcher who researched all kinds of meditation practice, Dr. Lauren Roche, who founded something called instinctive meditation, says meditation is above all intimacy with oneself. People often have a sense of failure when using rigid traditional techniques. The struggle with meditation is not to block out thoughts, detach and make yourself calm. The challenge is to tolerate the intensity of intimacy. You know, the capacity to bear and be, and to go with the flow, to be resilient, and to be with all that discomfort internally, externally, and both. I mean, look at the world we're living in right now. I mean, how do we be with that and not go insane? So, and I will quote, this isn't my personal discovery. This is based on, the deepest teachings of the Buddha and all of the wisdom teachers. The fundamental Buddhist concept of dependent origination teaches that at the most profound level, all life is interconnected and nothing exists in isolation. Simply put, it means that the real nature of individuals or events can only be understood in the context of their connection with others. Okay, because this exists, that does. Everything's in relation. Dogen says from the Zen master, enlightenment is to be intimate with all things. What does this mean in living our practice, in living with an open heart? Tsoknyi Rinpoche, one of our teachers, often quotes an ancient teaching of the Buddha. My dreamlike form appears to dreamlike beings to show them the dreamlike path that leads to dreamlike enlightenment. So meditation is loving attention, and loving attention is meditation. So I was listening to a Dharma podcast on Upaya's website, and there is a teacher, Sensei Amy Diller, that wrote a Dharma talk called Singing the River's Song Back to the River. And she shared that what arose out of very, very, very formal practice, and I don't know if some of you have practiced in the Zen tradition or know about it, but like sitting for hours and hours. They get up at 3:30 in the morning in an intensive retreat. And they were in wilderness conditions. And they sit for hours and hours and hours. They eat at formal eating meditation, everything done formally. And they go to bed like they I don't know, late at night. They get up, they get like less than 5 hours sleep a night. And she described doing this intensive practice period. And you know what came up in the intensive practice period? All of your ancient untwisted karma, right? All your ancient twisted karma. All of the pain, sorrow, unresolved grief, stuff that had happened. And what did she do after she got out of retreat, which I've done myself? Go find me a psychotherapist. I mean, and some meds, or these days, medical marijuana. So, really, when we really sit down, what happens? In the teaching, particularly over the years, I've had students say, I'm thinking about my unresolved, I'm grieving the loss of someone, or my unresolved feelings from my divorce are coming up. I literally had a student say it, a middle-aged woman, and she said, should I stop meditating? Am I doing it wrong? And I'm like, no, keep going. Shift to some more self-compassion, rest more in equanimity. This is our practice. It's not about transcending our human experience, it's about embracing it. It's about really being present. And so I'd like to share, with some of the time that's here, it's flying away. I had so much to choose from. I'd like to read you a little description that I wrote up about this experience and share a couple of stories that moved my heart. Because what happened is, the more and more that I found myself having to let go of my ideas of my practice. I mean, my judging mind was on fire. You are the laziest distracted meditator I can't imagine. Why can't you stick to your schedule? And I go, whose voice is this? And I happened to have a Buddhist nun was in the next cottage there, and she was teaching in the little Dharma hall that was there on a lower level. And I could come and go as I wish. They were really caring for my container of silence. But it wasn't a silent retreat. And sometimes I would pop in, and she was there, and sometimes I'd just be a little interaction. I'd say, I'm really struggling, and she'd go, I just knew that I needed to keep letting go, and and to trust the practice and the process. And I was doing a lot of heart practice during this period, a period of that. And at the end of the day, I would go on a walk. And I also had to go into town many times to find food, because it was a slave island and everything was imported, and you never knew it would be there. So you think you're on a tropical island, you're going to find a mango. I couldn't find a mango. And the last day I got a mango, and it was hard as a rock. And then I put it up in my open shower area, and a bird ate it. So it's like, what are you going to do? An avocado, I left it there to ripen. So, things just weren't going how I thought. And I was making some of my own food and whatever. So I want to read something to you about this, if I can find it here. So here's a little description. During and post this retreat without walls, released from internalized constructs and expectations, gazing over Rainbow Valley, floating in turquoise waters, a cacophony of sounds, floating ship horn blasts, mosquito bites, huffing and puffing up and down hills, distractions and mini dramas, internal and external, even earthquakes. Nothing is solid. What emerges is an unexpected natural ease of being, a release of self-consciousness, however temporary, a feeling of being welcome, a sense of being my natural self, a child of fluidity, ocean and wave. So in this place that I found, and there was the tremor. I was in the Dharma hall sitting after others had left, and all of a sudden the place started shaking. And it was, I think, shortly after that, about the Turkish earthquake. So I guess they said it's a good thing because they're on a fault line and it can shake, but it was literally, the earth was shaking. And there was just that moment of not knowing what was happening. And I'm glad I wasn't in my little cabin, because I heard that the floors were going like this in there. And I was in the Dharma hall, and everything was doing this, and the trees were, and I stood up, and I was like, oh, And then by the time I was ready to race out and find a refuge, it had stopped. It was about a few minutes long. And later, you'll laugh at this. I mean, I was mostly in silence, but in and out. And it was maybe 5 days later, after a sit, I said to the woman, it's an Italian artist, who's one of the couple who ran the place. I said, Dina, I said, the Dharma Hall was shaking a few days ago. She says, oh yeah, that was an earthquake. Don't worry, it wasn't any powerful meditative experience. You went. Thank you. Thank you. So, I thought that was great. So there were people coming in and out of the Sangha, and they were from all over the world. And I had an opportunity, we'd practice together, there'd be a Dharma talk, sometimes people would ask questions. And there were people there were Dominican and Peruvian and Brits and Ghanaian and a Rastafarian vegan soup lady that would bring me food, and an Oregonian, a Nevadan, a Jamaican, an Australian, an Antiguan. It was like this international community of fluidity. And by the time it just kept tapping these synchronicities. And you know how you travel these days? Does anyone travel yet these days? How many people, you don't even look up at your seat mate on an airplane. You can go to these airports with thousands of people and everyone's head is in some device. I used to love to travel, especially to Dharma retreats, because you'd have these amazing people you'd meet in conversations. No more. Well, I tell you, this retreat, as I was there and as I came out of it, and I was living in this culture of no speed limits, right? You took your life in your hands walking down the road. But then at the same time, I thought it was just because I'm old and I was walking and huffing and puffing down these hills to go for my evening constitutional. And people would say, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Are you okay? Or how are you, Auntie? You know, and I was like walking one time and it was really hot. And this bush started talking. And I said, good afternoon, are you okay? And it was an older lady behind trimming her bush. And I thought, oh, they think I'm really, but it wasn't me. It's like this was the culture. And there was a kind of a warmth. And and I just felt like this kind of, Caucasian, privileged person in this environment. And I just felt this ease. So I just want to share two little quick stories before we finish up. So one of them was, I had the taxi driver that took us there, came to pick me up to the airport, and it was raining and pouring. And the people there came with their rainbow umbrellas. And I said that they hadn't had enough rain. And they said, torrential rain. I said, the island is crying for me, and I'm crying with it to leave. And I got in the taxi, and the driver, in the hour or so trip to the airport, started sharing about his mother loss and his whole family of 14 children. And he started sharing his whole story to me in his English with the kind of a French islander thing. And he opened his heart. Lorenz shared his story. And then another young man who was there helping, that had one of the worst trauma stories I ever heard, talked to me and said he opened up, and I fed him a meal on my last day there. And this kept happening. And then when I was in the airport, I got there really early because of timing and everything. The airline hadn't even opened up, and there was an airline employee who was from the island, and she was a good size, large, woman of color, and she was sitting at this table. And I don't know what compelled me. We met eyes, and I said hi. And then we ended up sitting together for 2 hours or more. And I had snacks, and I said, hey, you want a snack? And because I had my nuts and energy bars, and we had the most amazing conversation, and then it was everything was 6 degrees of separation. She said, so where were you and who were you with? And oh, he's that, and I used to work for him and I know them. And we were like familia. And by the time I went to get on my plane, and she was a reservationist, and she was waiting for her shift. And she embraced me and wished me a good trip. And then it just continued. And the last story I'll tell you, I mean, I have like about a dozen stories that blew my mind. And it was just this synchronicity and intimate conversation with other people where there wasn't this sense of, there was a sense of humanity and belonging, and that we're all in this together, you know, in power and pain and joy and sorrow. And I'll close with the poem. But this woman was in my 4 a.m. shuttle to the airport, and we flew through Miami. And she had this huge bag. She had 3 bags, and they dropped us off at the wrong section. And basically it was nobody around. And it was her and I at where they drop us off for Delta. And she had this monster bag, and I had my monster bag on because I go prepared, you know. So I said, look, I have an extra hand. My bag is 50 pounds. She says, this is 50 pounds. I said, I got this. So I was praying there weren't going to be steps. So I'm pulling her big bag. She's got her other bags because she had traveled with someone there and was coming back. And we start talking, and she says, you know, that's my dialysis machine. I was rolling her portable dialysis machine. And then we were waiting in line and we were talking. And she says, she says, I'll take you for a coffee. Well, the coffee line was about an hour long. And we were waiting at the Starbucks in the Miami airport. It's the only one open at 4 or 5 in the morning. And we start talking, well, what were you in there and what were you doing? She had been kayaking with snakes the day before. And she showed me pictures. And it turns out she's a Buddhist and a Dharma practitioner from Oregon. And we exchanged things. So thank you, Leslie. I hope you're well. And I mean, I was like, are you kidding me? I meet the Buddhist in line, and it was just wonderful. And then I met a Peruvian medical student, and we talked for 2 hours and embraced in Minneapolis. She was coming here to see all of the hospitals and meet with familia. So I just say, let go, trust your practice. There's times to be tight, times to be loose, and just be. So a closing poem, and I apologize for going over. I do get carried away. So this is, let's see. I guess this one wants to be read. So this is another one by Lee Young. I'll just read part of it. It's called From Blossoms. From blossoms comes this brown bag of peaches. From the laden boughs, from hands, from sweet fellowship of the bins comes nectar at the roadside, succulent peaches we devour, dusty skin and all. Oh, to take what we love inside, to carry within us an orchard, to eat not only the skin, but the shade, not only the sugar, but the days, to hold the fruit in our hands, adore it, bite into the round jubilance of peach. There are days we live as if death were nowhere in the background, from joy to joy, from wing to wing, from blossom to blossom, to impossible blossom, to sweet impossible blossom. So thank you, everyone, and I appreciate your practice, and I forgive you if anything I said may have been caused anything didn't land well. And we'll dedicate the merit, and then I'd like to open up for some questions and make a quick announcement. So, any benefits from our practice, our collective practice, whatever we think it looks like, whatever we throw it away, and just let's dedicate it to the benefit and awakening of all beings, sentient beings everywhere, in all places and time. True peace, true happiness, and true liberation. So I'm just going to open up if there's a comment or question, and then I'll repeat it for the Zoom folks. William?
What was the name of the hill?
Thank you. I didn't share that story. Rotten Hill. It was on the wrong side of town. Rotten Hill. And the Brit, who's the architect of the island that founded that place, loved that irony. It was on the wrong side of town. And I was on Rotten Hill. Isn't that perfect? Good for compost. Any question or comment before we move on? Okay. Nothing from the Zoom room.
Merra,
Yes, Mary?
Mary, and I appreciate your repeating, and I see Robin over there, we're not supposed to take questions, is it because of the Zoom, people have trouble hearing? Okay. Yeah, because we usually go to 11:45.
Yes.
Just so you know. But so I just have a question about being in that flow space, which can be very uncomfortable,
Yes.
where I'm in it right now. And I really appreciate your talk because everything is moving, and it's like just any comments you could have about relaxing with that as sort of just process things to lean into in the practice, because it can be like, I don't like this space. So anything you might offer, and I think your talk probably touched on other things, and it may be from your retreat, things that you carry that you might share.
So the question that Mary is asking is basically, how do you lean into the aversion and discomfort, right?
Yeah.
Is that it? Would you say?
Thank you.
And you know, this happens all the time, every day. I mean, we could go around the room and say, what was your latest disappointment, discomfort, aversion? You know, thing that didn't work out the way you'd hoped, right? I mean, we've been waiting for the gardener that never came for the last 2 days, you know, the weather. I mean, so I think that part of it is we're talking about living the practice. It's really the retreat without walls is about every moment is this way of you noticing. So we're not trying to get rid of the aversion and the discomfort. I mean, how many of you did nobody had a pain in the knee or had to shift their body the whole time? You all sat here like perfect Buddhas? I don't think so. Your minds were just, you know, completely silent. No, you know, so we're living with this all of the time, every day. So it's more like, how are we with it? And if our judging mind is constantly judging us, telling us we're doing it wrong, we're a failed meditator, we should be better. This is not a self-improvement project. You know, this is a deconstruction project. It's really a radical melting and letting go. And it's not what you think. And I think that I just find that the surrender to what is where it's at. And it's so difficult because of our conditioning, because of even how we create these spaces. And we do need some structure. I'm not saying to throw away the baby with the bathwater, but what's happening inside? The people I've met and teachers I've had, they're free inside. You know, they're free. And what is that to be free and to live in that way? When I was talking with my teacher friend who recommended I go there, I said, this was not what I expected. In fact, I couldn't believe that she didn't tell me what a Buddha round this was, a beautiful place and how amazing. And she said, well, you know, you couldn't do it in the formal way. And this is a teacher who was a guiding teacher at Forest Refuge, which is the most silent, pristine Vipassana place in the country. I think it's totally a pin drops, you know. And you are like this. So, I mean, she said, yeah, she just smiled and nodded when I talked to her. She said, you couldn't do it any other way. You just had to go with how it is. And she practiced there herself. So I just say, live that. And one of my community Dharma leader colleagues who wrote The Meditative Gardener, Cheryl Wolfsong, she just had her article. When she deadheads flowers, she goes, she thinks of the heavenly messengers, impermanence, death, while she's deadheading flowers. So you can make your practice in anywhere, anytime. So Mingyur Rinpoche, who's one of our teachers, is coming to town. He's giving a free public talk on the 9th. It's coming Friday at St. Thomas. If you haven't heard him, he's one of those free beings. He wrote Joy of Living and other books. Highly recommend. Is from the Tibetan tradition, but he also teaches secularly. Yes, you had a comment?
I just realized that something happened 2 weeks ago.
Okay, I'm just going to tell them a yogi's commenting here. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
I was taking a walk and I realized I was judging everything.
Yes.
I've never lived there.
Yeah, judging.
Judging. And I realized I was pushing into the thing.
Yes.
And when I realized that, I thought I should just receive it. And when I received it, all of a sudden the road got so big. And it was so calm. And it sounds like kind of like that you're just receiving.
So what's your name, sir?
John.
It's okay, I see your name. So John in the room was just sharing that he was on a walk, and his judging mind was going to town. And then he felt he was pushing into life and pushing into the world. And then he went into receiving mode and everything expanded. And it was just that kind of letting go. So I think that's actually a beautiful practice and also response to Mary's question, because you see the tightness, we hear the thing, and then that's also where the softening in the body is so important. Why do we drop into the body? Why do we soften and breathe and be with the tight part? We're not going to chop it off or get rid of it or practice it to death. We're going to support it and maybe even inquire into it. And be compassionate. So I think that's the announcement, and I'm going to turn it over to Robin, and then those that would like to stay, I'll stick around. Feel free to come up and talk, and you can also have some small groups. Is that right? Got it right now? I don't want to screw that up any more than I have. So thank you, Robin. Thank you, everyone, and I hope this people participate as well.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Robin. I'm the office manager here. And thank you, Merra, for your beautiful talk and the wisdom you shared. When a teacher is teaching at Common Ground who is not Mark or Shelley, 2/3 of the dana goes to the teacher and 1/3 goes to the center. So if you would like to offer any donations, we have a bowl right outside the Dharma Hall, and you can also give online. And as most of you know, we operate completely on generosity. So, and I'll just offer a few announcements about upcoming programs. We have an introduction to mindfulness meditation course starting this coming Tuesday, and that's taught by Mark Nunberg and Stacy McClendon. Shelley Graff is teaching a half-day retreat this Saturday, the 10th. There's a new Buddhist studies course on the 5 spiritual faculties starting Monday, June 12th. And we have many amazing visiting guest teachers from out of town this June. So I really suggest looking at the calendar. Tim Burkett, Devin Hassa, Nils Heyman. Yeah. So if I believe, Lucy, you're going to divide folks into small groups on Zoom. And if anyone wants to stay and meet in a small group, we can divide folks into small groups if you want to connect with your fellow practitioners. Okay, be well. Thank you.
Robin, I'll need to have, Robin, do you hear me? Hi, Robin. Hi, Robin, do you hear me? Yeah, you'll just have to give me the security access and then I can do that.
Okay, I have to move to a different computer. So.
Okay, no problem. I'll wait for you. Just give Robin a couple minutes before we break out into small rooms, small groups, I should say.